Arco Flagellants. The Inquisitor slowly marched into the Grand Hall, with only one being as his entourage. A bent-over and decrepit-seeming thing, covered in a huge, dirty, musty cloth wrap. Its features utterly covered, and none could see exactly what it was. But by its staggered lurch, it was not something to be concerned about. And now, a very brief word from the sponsors of this video. 2 minutes, let's do this! From the Silmarillion, by J.R.R. Tolkien. And he, Melkor, desires rather to subject to his will both elves and men. And he wished to have subjects and servants, and to be called Lord. Yes, I am now Lord Baldermort. And you can be too, with established titles, the sponsor of this video. It's simple. The company sell you a tiny plot of land in Eddleston, Scotland, and that gives you entitlement through an ancient Scottish custom to be henceforth addressed as a laird, or lord, or lady. But honestly, it's a great gift for a friend or family member, a mark of deep respect or a good jape, depending on how they receive it. But it is always in good spirits, and a deeply thoughtful or even last-minute gift. So why not get in a tiny bit of early festive joy and put a present in the bank to put under the Christmas tree? And established titles fund planting of a tree for every purchase, with trees for the future, somewhere in the world, to aid with reforestation. So, on credit cards, plane tickets, dating profiles, and the like, the sky's the limit, and it's a great lark. Go to the links in the description and put in Lord Baldermort and help support the channel, because established titles are now running an early Black Friday sale, plus 10% off for any purchase with the code Lord Baldermort. Thanks to established titles for sponsoring this video. Now the first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my link will effectively be next to my plot. We can build our own little Warhammer kingdom, so let's take over Scotland inch by inch. So smash the links in the description to this video and get a friend, partner, or even yourself made into a lord. And so, back to the story. "Are we still friends?" said the Inquisitor. The Inquisitor eyed the man in front of him. Dazzlingly attired, rings with rare gems mined hundreds of light years away. Materials impossible to fabricate, exquisite to the touch, intimidatingly perfect in their stitching. The work of many hands over a very long time. The ruler of this hive, he wanted for nothing, except perhaps humility. "No, we are not friends, Barnabas. You come to my hive, you come to my world, and ask that for all of this. You demand and acquire so much it beggars belief." The Inquisitor slowly opened his mouth. "I do not ask. I state. I am his servant. He who you proclaim to love, to worship. Why now do you refuse to comply? You know I carry the seal of the Emperor. Why do you defy his will?" "I think not," retorted the governor. "You claim to work on his behalf. But I suspect this has little to do with the will of the Emperor. I think it is your will. Your greed. You are not in a position to barter or bargain or refute or refuse. I am his servant. I am his will. And yet you stand alone in my halls. Well, apart from this, the sting at your side, whereas all I need do is click my fingers. The governor then motioned to his men on either side of the grand hallway. Each moved in unison as they shouldered their lasguns, pointing them at the Inquisitor. The Inquisitor raised his hands with open palms. The Lord smiled. A light then went off from his palms, bathing the governor from foot to head in a line of light. Like a scanner, it seemed, but it was not. This is your last warning. Reconsider now. Heh! Light shows only work in feral worlds, boy. I'm not impressed with low-tech pantomime. Now, kneel. Pay homage, and I may allow you to return to your ship and leave. Empty-handed, of course. And that's only a may. Now kneel! Alas, said the Inquisitor, I cannot. The Inquisitor then stated boldly the one word, pacifism. And at that, the dirty ball of rags next to him exploded into activity. Throwing off the cloth draped over it, the being was not an ancient stooped-backed human. It was something else entirely. Its arms were no longer there, replaced by chains that flickered with electric power. And it moved faster than an Astartes as it charged towards the guards on one side of the hall. Lasguns ripped from the guards and hit the thing, but not many. It moved too fast. A stink of burnt flesh filled the air as two hit it seemingly dead on, but the thing did not even miss a pace. The guards on the other side of the hall fired at the Inquisitor, but found their rays slammed into an eggshell of power over the man. Screams were torn from throats as the thing hit. Its chains wrapped around guards and electrocuted them, burning the flesh from them. Others it bit, kicked, tore apart. And when it had finished all of the men on one side, it screamed and charged around the hall to the other side. The entire event lasted less than 2 minutes, and at its end, the thing was panting, yet moved back to the Inquisitor, who just looked at the governor placidly. Perhaps we should reconsider your previous statements. I trust you now see the truth of the matter. The governor slowly knelt and looked up at the Inquisitor. You are his will. You are his will. Good. I am glad you have seen the light. Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and faces of the Warhammer 40k universe. The grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. A reminder that we have other avenues of entertainment, links in the description. And give us a like and share if you enjoy the video. To support our ongoing efforts against boredom, do consider joining our Patreon. Now, let us proceed. For today, we shall be discussing one of the most wretched existences in the entire setting. It has staunch competition, so please do not take this as a solid statement, for even I discover new horrors in this setting every single day. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Arco Flagellants. An Arco Flagellant is a specialized form of servitor, created from an imperial citizen who has been condemned to the capital punishment of arco-flagellation. In battle, arco-flagellants are pumped full of a cocktail of narcotic stimulants that transforms them into frenzied whirlwinds of destruction, utterly impervious to wounds. An arco-flagellant is unleashed on the enemy in a suicidal charge that causes the maximum amount of damage. They are used individually or in packs by Inquisitors of the Ordo Hereticus and the Sisters of Battle, the Adepta Sororitas, as disposable terror shock troops. Arco Flagellants are human beings who have been condemned by imperial justice to death, but whose crimes are not so severe that they are beyond all hope of redemption. Such criminals will be put to a merciful death after a lengthy and extremely excruciating ritual of torture intended to purify their souls, so that they may find peace alongside the Emperor of Mankind in the afterlife. The sentence of Arco Flagellation is only delivered to criminals on technologically advanced worlds due to the advanced resources it requires. A penitent condemned to Arco Flagellation will be handed over to the Adeptus Mechanicus, who will lobotomize him or her and replace their arms with cybernetic weapons, most often a pair of heavy industrial shears or a pair of electroflails. They will then graft a whole battery of chemical injectors directly into the spine and install a pacifier helmet which contains a crude mind impulse unit designed to control the cyborg. As long as the pacifier helmet is active, the Arco Flagellant remains dormant, with what little remains of his mind filled with the hymns and holy iconography of the ecclesiarchy. He will only be able to shuffle around if ordered to, but will otherwise remain immobile in a deadened bliss. Once dragged into battle, the pacifier helmet will be deactivated, and the ejectors in the Arco Flagellant spine will start unleashing their cocktail of drugs, often a volatile mix of barrage, frenzon, slaught, and spur, into his body. This cocktail will grant the flagellant enormous strength, speed, and stamina, and will plunge him into an uncontrollable killing frenzy, fueled by the drugs and the terrible pain of his crude bionic grafts. The helmet will then only allow him to see any being who has not been tagged by his controller as friendly. The Arco Flagellant will rush toward the nearest living creature it can see and rend it to pieces, utterly uncaring of his own wounds or survival. He will continue to attack in this berserk manner until he has been mortally wounded, or his metabolism finally collapses under the assault of the deadly mix of chemicals constantly injected into it to maintain his frenzy. Arco Flagellants are either detached individually to the services of those Inquisitors who need an unsubtle tool for a vital task, like the eradication of a nest of heretics, or gathered in groups and unleashed upon the enemies of the Emperor in an orgy of slaughter that would put a cornate berserker to shame. Although the Sisters of Battle readily use Arco Flagellants and rejoice in seeing criminals finding their redemption in death, they keep a wary distance from the creatures, and only use them when they are past consideration of collateral damage. To the Arco Flagellants, any living being who has not been specifically tagged by their controller as a friendly is an enemy, and they will kill it accordingly, be it a true opponent or simply an innocent bystander. Notable Arco Flagellants. Damien 1427. Damien 1427 is a human male and an Arco Flagellant. His trigger word is Purgatus, and his true name has been expunged from imperial records. He was once a citizen of the world of Siluria IV. Later, he became an iconoclast and gathered a heretical mob in the wilderness areas of that planet. After defying the Cardinal of Siluria IV and speaking out against a planetary governor, Tyron Rex, he was arrested and sentenced to Arco Flagellation. His current status is unknown. Simeon 38X. Before his Arco Flagellation, he was a human named Erin Octavus, a Grox farmer native to the agri-world of Standalone, a sufferer of Gathalamor syndrome, a condition in which subjects become determined to sacrifice themselves in the name of the Emperor. Octavus believed he was tainted by evil. After several attempts to placate and purge the farmer failed, Octavus, spurred on by his hallucinations, attacked Cardinal Simeon, for which he was tried and sentenced to Arco Flagellation. Octavus was renamed Simeon 38X, after the cardinal who had condemned him. Yet he still suffered from Gathalamor syndrome, and it was speculated that his pacifier helm actually worsened his condition, which resulted in him not always responding to his trigger word, being exculpate. This resulted in bloody consequences several times, but most notably during his service to the Inquisitor Steinbeck. Following the grisly death of several members of the ecclesiarchy as a result of this quirk, Simeon was almost terminated as too dangerous to be controlled. The witch hunter Tyrus intervened, granting him a stay of execution. Simeon was given a retrial and sentenced to death masking. After this, he was held in stasis aboard Tyrus's own vessel, a ready instrument to be unleashed upon the Inquisitor's most hated foes. End quote. An unenviable fate at the very least, to have everything you are taken from you, forced to be a dog, set on the targets your handler deems unworthy of protection, but eminently eligible for slaughter. Few things in a setting are as horrific as this. They exist, but we shall get into them at another time. Thank you for your precious time. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.